Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome to another one of my Tony Talks interviews. This afternoon I'm going to be talking with Richard Sutton, who's Head of Accountant Relationships at the wonderfully named Iwoca, that's Iwoca, and we'll ask him what that actually means in a minute. I've noticed it's great to see lots of accountants registering and signing into the webinar, but also I've noticed a lot of individual businesses are also listening in, which just goes to show that there's a genuine interest in arranging finance without having to go cap in hands to the bank. I did mention briefly earlier on, but if you have any questions, you can always use the panel to the side of your screen there, and we will get back to you as soon as we can, most likely after the webinar. If you prefer to make a note, you should have picked up our email addresses just before the webinar started. But just to run through it, my email address is Tony, that's Tony, at icpa.org.uk, and Richard's is richard.sutton, that's Sutton, at Iwoca, the wonderfully named Iwoca, Iwoca.co.uk. And as I say, if you've got a question, drop us an email, and either about the ICPA and I'll answer you, or if it's to do with finance, obviously Richard will get back to you. So as I say, don't be worried about sending in your questions, and we'll deal with them as soon as we can. So first of all, let me formally introduce my guest, Richard Sutton. Thanks for coming today, Richard. Welcome to my palatial offices. As you see, normally, in all honesty, there's normally piles of files and folders all around the desk, but we've cleared it away for you today to make you feel homely.
You say that.
That's all right. First of all, Richard, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a bit about the history of Iwoca, and please don't forget to tell us where that name came from.
Okay, so thanks Tony for the introduction. So Iwoca stands for Instant Working Capital. Okay, I guess we do exactly what it says on the tin. Yeah. We've been going as a business for about 5 years, and we were specifically set up to help the thousands of small businesses that I guess are struggling to access finance through the banks. We've created an award-winning technology platform that helps us understand any small business in very fine detail, which allows us to put fast credit decisions in place really fairly. Me myself, I've been at the company for about 4 years.
So you was in virtually at the start?
Pretty much, yeah. I've seen a lot of changes and a lot of growth. There was 20 of us when I first joined. There's now about 170 of us now. But it's quite interesting because we recruit weekly or fortnightly, and the people that are joining now feel very much that they're joining at the start of our journey. So we still class ourselves as a startup. We've never been going 5 years, but I think we've got a lot to achieve before we've been.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Richard. Now we know a bit more about Iwoca. I don't know if I wasn't alone. I always thought the I was going to stand for international or possibly internal. There you go. What actually is the target market? We've got lots of accountants who are listening today, and I know we've got lots of businesses who are listening into this webinar. What actually is the target market that Iwoca's looking for, so that they can recognise, if it's my business, yes, these guys could help me, or if it's an accountant, in our minds we're thinking, this client.
Yeah.
So what sort of market are you looking for, Iwoca?
It's interesting. So as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to bridge, we are bridging a gap at a market aimed at the, I guess, S in SME. Unfortunately, this is a market that has been quite undeserved, where the banks are throwing a lot of hurdles and obstacles in putting decisions in place for them to access further credit. So we're lending up to £100,000 as a credit facility. Now, to give you an idea of an amount per business, it's typically around a month's turnover.
Right. So that's a good answer. So that's a good thing to hold on to. So, if you're thinking about lending decisions, that's a nice, easy to remember, roughly a month's turnover. That's cool. Yeah. Okay.
Our average loan size is quite small as well. It's around £15,000. So hopefully people listening will sort of, reconcile, right, that's the size business that we're sort of talking about, which unfortunately they've struggled to access finance in the past. Now, we serve all industries. To give you a bit more of a background, when we started lending to e-commerce companies. So your eBay sellers, your Amazon sellers, anyone with an online web store, taking payments through PayPal. And unfortunately, they struggled to access the capital that they needed to grow as a business. So we are an award-winning technology company at heart. So we've got integrations with the likes of your eBay, your PayPal, which meant in practice a small business could apply in as little as 5 minutes, link up their eBay account, and with their authorization, we were able to plug into the trading history associated to that account. So we could look at their seasonal trends, their revenue, what's going in, what's going out. We could look at their customer feedback scores, and it allowed us to really predict the future health of those businesses. Now, as we grew as a company, we still help e-commerce companies, of course, but we now help all industries.
So you applied virtually the same logic to everybody else, and in essence tested it out on the e-commerce side.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we started small, and then as we sort of grew and increased our sort of awareness and appetite, we now help all industries. So from your online retailers to your restaurants to your salons to your manufacturing companies.
Okay, so what about startups? I mean, already a couple of people emailed me in beforehand and said, to ask you, does it apply to startups as well? And when people say startups, what do you classify as a startup? Is 3 months a startup? Is 1 year a startup? So first of all, do you help out startups, and what do you call a startup?
Interesting. So the short answer is yes, we help startups.
Good.
There's, the banks and I guess a lot of other lenders out there would look at, wouldn't look at a business until they had, a year's trading or 6 months trading at the very least. Now,
and there are tons of security.
Exactly. Yeah. So we would actually look at a business who hasn't started trading yet, because we're an unsecured facility. We don't take any collateral. We'll be looking at the personal credit of that individual, and we'll be looking at the business plan. But a maximum amount for a startup we'll be looking at to no more than £10,000.
Right.
Now, the great thing is with our facility, which I'll explain a bit later on, is that it's not a one-off loan as such, and we never see that business again. We'd really like to grow the business that's applied with us and grow with it. So as their sort of sales grow, we'd increase their facility over time. There's no limit or restriction on how long a business.
So there's no set in stone. This is a startup. They only get that amount of money. We're not going to look at them for anything other than that.
Not at all. We want to help as many businesses as possible, whether that's a startup, sole trader, limited business.
Okay.
We want to help as many as possible.
So again, across the range, you'll take sole trader, partnerships, limited companies, LLPs.
Yeah. Franchises, we'll look at it.
Okay. I'm sure the accountants listening in will know only too well the procedure necessary to get a loan or an overdraft for a client from their business bankers. It involves we've got to put together usually 3 years past sets of accounts, forecasts up the wazoo, cash flows, profit forecasts, projections all over the place. We then send them in. Then back come the more questions. You then answer the questions. The whole thing seems to go on for an interminable amount of time before a decision is made. And it was very interesting that I think it was it this week your CEO was actually presenting, is it Lend-It?
Lend-It on Tuesday, yeah.
Lend-It, and his presentation was actually filmed. And seriously, if you want to, send us in, ask us for a link, and we'll send you a link to the video of his sorry, your CEO's name is? Christoph, his presentation, and he takes the journey, shows someone going to get bank finance and all the barriers, as you say, that the bank's putting past. It's a very impressive piece of work that your guys done, and I think you'd enjoy looking at it. So we all know about that. So what we don't know is how we go about finance with Iwoca. So how about you take us through this whole process, and then if there's something I want to ask, I'll jump in and ask you. But if you take it from, okay, so whether an accountant or someone, a business is thinking about finance, how do they go about it? What happens?
Exactly. So it's really interesting. I'll elaborate a little bit more on what you touched upon there with I guess a business's process of accessing credit through a bank. Now, you'll see from the YouTube link that we can send you, Christoph, who you talked about, is a small business is being thrown a lot of obstacles and hurdles when trying to obtain credit through the bank. We did a bit of undercover work and actually went through the process ourselves, and they were passed from pillar to post. They were asked to call a call center, and no one else could sort of help them, and it was 3 weeks until they started the conversation about how to actually go through the process, and that's a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then when you start going through the process and they throw you all the forms and spreadsheets that they want you to fill in, it could be a month or so before you've even got a decision. Now that's, if you think of that in practice.
I will interject there and say that probably is on the basis that they don't actually ask you any questions based on the forms and the forecast that you then submit.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, but having been there, and I'm sure my colleagues will know what that's like.
And I mean, to put that into practice, if you're, let's say you're an online retailer and you want some more working capital or more credit to take advantage of a stock opportunity that's coming available, and it may be only available for this week, and you're going through a process that takes weeks, if not months, to even obtain that it could be too late. So what we do here at Iwoca is to make it really streamlined and really seamless for a small business to apply online via our website.
Right, so it's all online, yeah?
Yep, all online on our website. It takes 5 minutes to put your details in about yourself and the business. And what's really interesting is that we use technology to come up with a risk score, and we're as soon as the business is putting their details in about themselves, we're plugging data through from Equifax and Call Credit to look at their personal credit.
So literally, as I'm keying in my name, address, and various bits and pieces, in the background, the tech is already finding, oh, this Tony, this credit rating.
Exactly.
So already this process is running before I've even...
It's running in the background as they're applying. Yeah. And what's interesting is, if they're a limited business and they're putting details about their limited company, we're plugging information that's available through Companies House.
Yeah.
And then we've made it really simple for them to provide us with the information that we need to put a decision in place. So, for example, you may have seen that we've recently got an integration partnership with Xero.
Yeah.
They're actually awarded as Emerging Xero App Partner of the Year at XeroCon last week, which we're really, really proud and humble about. But what that means in practice is that a small business could link up their Xero account and then click a few buttons and their authorization. We're able to plug the data within that, which allows us to put a decision in place.
Okay, so I understand lots of accountants here watching, and some of the business owners could very well be with Xero. Lots of accountants do, we know, are fixating on and using Xero an awful lot. So we plug in our Xero TO, but what are we actually giving you access to? You're not going to have access to sensitive data or anything like that.
No.
So what are you actually getting access to when I give it?
Yeah. So good question. So what it means is by linking the Xero, you'd be actually logging in as if you'd be logging into your account. So you put your username, your password. For complete reassurance, we never see those details. No. We then cannot actually go into your Xero account. All you're giving others as authorization for is to actually be able to see the trading history within the statements that are within that Xero.
The bank statements or the accounts?
The bank statements.
Ah, cool.
So we can look at their sales, their revenue, what's coming in, what's coming out. And what it means is that it just saves you or the accountant a lot of time in collating together all the paperwork, all the spreadsheets, requesting them from the bank and then posting it. It can be done in as little as a few.
So you're actually using current live data, which is something the perennial cry from accountants. When banks are asking us for information, you sit there and say, "Well, you're looking at it every day, Mr. Bank Manager.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me?" But anyway, so you're looking at live data, so you can build that up. Okay, that's great if you're a Xero user and you can log that in and give you that instant access. But obviously, not everyone is using Xero. So if you're with various other media, Sage, QuickBooks, or whomever, how do we go on that?
Exactly. So the Xero is obviously a great addition if you're using it. It just makes the process even more simpler. But if you're not on any of these cloud accounting software, then again, it's really simple for you to provide us with the information that we need. So you can simply link up your online banking as you would do for, again, it's very secure. You'd be logging in as if you'd be logging into your account, and then we can see the statements associated to it. We appreciate that some people might be have some reservations about that, in which case you can simply link up PDF statements onto the
So you could send up PDFs.
Link up your VAT accounts, your company accounts, but what's really interesting is our technology is really smart at reading that information.
Cool.
So we don't have, well, we do have credit analysts within the office who would look at applications, but our technology does all the legwork for them. So by linking up their PDF statements or their VAT returns, our technology will quickly implement them into beautiful graphs and sort of cash flow forecasts, and it really aids in putting up a credit score in which the credit analyst to work with.
Okay. So it covers literally everybody. You don't have to be with QuickBooks. There's ways you can upload bank statements, VAT returns, etc. to aid in your decision making. Okay, so we covered the security issues, and obviously, people say two things. How much can I borrow?
Yep.
What's it going to cost me?
Yep, let me explain further. Okay, so we've had this conversation a couple of times. You asked me, is it a loan? Is it an overdraft? And the question is, the answer is, it's a hybrid between a business overdraft and a business credit card. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that a business can get approved with us up to £100,000. Doesn't cost them anything to set up.
Right, so there's no setup costs or any charges like that. So this process we're going through online with you, and maybe some are having more direct intervention because they can't link zero. So we're doing a little bit of work, but nowhere near as much as we've done before.
Yeah.
But they're not going to come back with, here's a bill to say, part of the deal is you've got this setup fee and...
No, so they can literally, so we speak to a lot of accountants who are sort of sense checking whether their clients would be eligible for our facility or how much they can borrow. And we say, look, I can't tell you over the phone yes or no, but if you put an application through, it's free to do. Yeah. There's no commitment within it. So, if we approve you for X amount at this rate and it's not quite right for you, or you're looking for something a bit longer term, or whatever the terms may be, you can walk away from it. That facility will be there free of charge if you're not using it, but you can walk away with it. There's no commitment, and that's great because a lot of businesses approach us. You might not necessarily need funds right away, but to know that something is there for them, it's like a safety net, I guess. And if something around the corner, an unexpected bill, or
it's like having the overdraft there, but not having to pay every year to have it.
Exactly.
If you'll never use it.
That's it.
So we are right, therefore, in assuming that we only pay when we use the money. Yeah. And we can draw down all sum of it, however we want to do it.
You've got full flexibility. So let's use a £10,000 facility for example. Okay, you're approved for 10. You don't need it right away, but a couple of weeks down the line, you want to purchase stock, or you want to cover an outstanding invoice. You can actually log into your account online via a website that you create on application. Sure. You would see your amount there and what your payments would look like if you borrow the full 10, but you can actually draw down as little or as much of that as you wish. Yeah. So if you only need £5,000 from it, click request, and we'll transfer those funds into your account within a couple of hours. We are then a short-term lender, so you've got a maximum of 12 months to make your repayments. So we expect a minimum payment each month. The great thing is we'd only charge interest on outstanding capital.
So there's no, if I manage to pay up my 5,000 in 2 months, I'm only paying. There's no early redemption settlement or any sort of those sort of charges.
Exactly. So you'd be on 12 months if you needed it, which is to spread out your payments. But like I said, let's say it was a stock opportunity, you used the 5,000 for, you made a quick return on your investment, and you were like, well, I can pay this back now. And let's say 2 months, you can pay us back a lump sum. There's no early repayment fees involved, and we'll literally only charge you for those 2 months that you had it. And the great thing is from there is that once it is paid back, you're up to your 10,000 limit again, and it's something you can use on a rotating basis.
I get it. So I suppose it's a term like the American term, like a line of credit, isn't it? And I think it's a term in America. So you've got a line of credit, so you can use it as and when you want to. Yeah. Well, that, as I say, that's really good to know. So we've covered that. Okay. How do we actually make repayments?
So as I said, there'll be minimum payments each month. We'd set you up on your debit card payment to come out on a date you'd like each month.
But I've got the flexibility to pay it up.
Got the flexibility to pay early. You've got flexibility to make over repayments. And as soon as you do that, we'll just recalculate the interest, so you're only being charged for those days.
That's cool. Because I've noticed, sometimes businesses you do well, and suddenly next thing you know, you've got a big VAT bill. Yep. So for a month or two, you need that influx. And if you try then go to the bank to cover you know,
well,
you're going to get
it's interesting
because you can't get it that quick.
I mean, we had an interesting case study that would always sort of stick in my mind, because as a channel, we're trying to educate accountants on what we do. And I was speaking to one a few months ago, and he goes, well, actually, this could be ideal. He's got a client who banked with their bank for 20 years or so, and they needed to cover a £70,000 VAT bill. Now, they went through the bank the year before, and then the whole process took 2 months for them to obtain it, bearing in mind they're a customer of them for 20 odd years. He tried us out, and they put the application through, and within 24 hours we approved that business, and they were able to cover their VAT bill within 48 hours of application. Now, you can see straight away the benefit of that, the value behind just the quickness and the easiness of it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, isn't life grand? We've got our money and everything's wonderful. I paid you back early, or not, the case may be, but I paid you back. What happens if I can't? What happens if I miss a repayment? What happens if I can't pay you this month?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do?
It's a good question. There's a few factors. So one is that we're a risk-based lender. We're not a distressed lender. So we wouldn't help businesses who we try and help as many businesses as possible. And if it's slightly riskier from our point of view, rather than say no, we'd say yes, but at this price. But we'd always put them on a payment plan that we felt comfortable that they'll be able to make repayments. So that's one factor.
But is that payment plan nearly always 12 months?
Well, 12 months is the maximum if they wanted it on a 6-month plan.
Okay, so 12 months is the maximum. Yeah, okay.
12 months are good because they can spread the payments each out. But we would always say, if someone asked us that question on an application, we'd always say, if you've got reservations on meeting these payments, we'd recommend you perhaps just leave it at this time. But to answer your question, what happens if they do? We pride ourselves on being a very flexible and ethical company. We're not in the business to sort of sting people with huge fees. There's a one-off fee, I think, of around £30, £35. But we'll try our very best to put you back on an affordable payment plan. But yeah.
Okay. Are you interested in what I do with the money? I mean, if I've put up to you, do I have to give you a reason why I want the money, first of all? And then if I say I want it to, because I've got a chance to buy a load of stock at a very good price, and then you lend me the money and I get the money, but then I spend it on holiday. Does it? I mean, do you check up, or do you give a hoot, or what? So do I repay?
We would give a hoot. We give a hoot. We obviously ask them, even on application, what are you going to use? Is it buy an inventory? Is it to cover a bill? Is it to pay staff? Move premises? You can literally use the funds for whatever you wish, and we do ask and find out. But we're more interested in can they meet the repayments, and if the business is strong enough, we're happy. Yeah, whether people go on holiday with it, I'm not too sure, but as long as they make the repayments, I guess.
Well, as long as they ask me, I don't mind. But last thing I want to ask you about this whole process, the thorny question of security. I know you mentioned it very briefly earlier on, but I mean, all my colleagues will know that no matter what we seem to be borrowing on, or our clients seem to be borrowing, whether it's £5 or 500, the banks seem to want to know your inside leg measurement and then secure everything you've got right the way down to your family home, and they want projections for many years, and then they want to secure every asset they've got going, and just even the documentation to deal with that alone can sometimes take a week or more.
And even with securing against an asset, it takes a few weeks or months to do, right?
Because then you've got to prove that the asset's not secured somewhere, and loads of what about security? What does Iwoca do? What security are you looking for?
So our facility is an unsecured facility by definition. Right, okay. So we don't ask for any collateral, we don't ask for any assets. All we'd ask for is a personal guarantee from the director of the business. So yes, we're looking at the strength of the business and to ensure that they can meet repayments, but we're also doing our checks on the individual. And I guess by them signing a personal guarantee, it shows us that they're confident in their business.
But the personal guarantee can get signed and dealt with speedily as well.
That's a massive factor as well. Like we said, with the assets, could take weeks. With a personal guarantee, You could get approved for your business. You want to draw down, you sign the personal guarantee online, ping it back over, and then the facility is there. So I'm not too sure if I've covered this earlier, but our typical turnaround is around 24 hours. We've got businesses who we've funded instantly, so on application, congratulations, you've been approved. Businesses could apply in the morning and could have it in the afternoon, but our typical turnaround is 24 hours. So to be able to bridge whatever cash flow gap that business is incurring, and for whatever purpose it might be, that the whole speed of things is a real game changer.
So behind all this tech that actually the applicant and I, are not seeing as we're going in there, we're not seeing all this, it's just happening as we're going through it. I've actually been to your offices and your premises in central London there, and there are huge banks of people. So we've got this huge algorithm that is driving the tech in the background. Do we have human involvement looking at the tech and getting involved as well, or is it? It can't surely be purely just tech driven. Surely there is a human involvement.
Yeah, good question. So the short answer is yes. We have credit analysts, underwriters within the business and in the office,
and they're actually on site.
And they're on site, and they look at applications. So what we're striving towards at the moment is automated decisions.
Right.
So we're at the moment we've got a channel which is purely automated, which means a business could go through the whole process without speaking to a human. So literally they could 5 minutes applying and submit everything they need, and it could say congratulations, you've been approved for £10,000.
Job done.
This is how you go through the final steps, and you can do it all online. But anything sort of in between, we would have a credit analyst who would put their human touch towards the decision. So what's really interesting is advanced technology is like a machine learning capability. So let's say a restaurant who's been trading for 2 years and their turnover is 600,000 a year, or whatever it may be. Our system would automatically compare that business to all the other similar sized businesses and industry of that size and go, well, look, historically, these businesses are quite low risk, therefore we recommend a score of this amount. Now, what our credit analysts will do is put their human touch on it and do their sort of checks and whatever it may be, and that will contribute to that machine learning.
So the algorithm in the background drives all this information without bothering the applicant or the accountant, please, and then passes this information when necessary, and if it can do a direct offer, fine, but if needs be, then the analyst has all this data already presented in the way that they want it presented. They're used to seeing it time after time, so their decision is that much easier and quicker to make. So it all speeds up. It's all about the speed of the process.
So when a credit analyst looks at an application, they're without even the first time they look at it, they're seeing graphs, they're seeing tables and sort of cash flow forecasts, and they can instantly see the strength of that business. So just a few sort of checks there, and it may take 10-15 minutes to
they do their doings.
And then we'll contact the customer, go, look, congratulations, this is the offer, this is what we can do, and this is how we go through the final steps.
Okay. So we all get this tech, and we can all understand it a bit better now, thanks for all of that. But there are plenty of people out there who tech is not their strong point. Again, I've been there and I know there are shed loads of bodies in the building and people working all the time there. So if someone wasn't necessarily or felt, let's say, a bit uncomfortable with technology, but had a very good business, still wanted a loan, etc., but was feeling, I'm really not comfortable with this, and or even an accountant was maybe feeling not particularly comfortable, presumably there are people there to help that can say, okay, this is what you do, or can take tech worries away from them, because not everybody is comfortable with tech.
Absolutely. We've got a team of 170 of us that's built on with credit analysts who do the decisions. We've got a team of onboarders who, if an applicant comes through and they're missing A, B, and C, the onboarder would advise them how best to sort of provide this to us. And we've got account managers which is really interesting, really important for us, that a business that comes to us gets their own personal account manager. So whenever they need help with uploading certain things, or they need to provide us certain information, but they're having a bit of difficulty, they'd always speak to the same account manager. which is great. So whenever they want to make a repayment or ask certain questions about how it works, they have that continuity.
So there's an account manager at the point of application, not at the point of agreement. So you've got an account manager who can help you apply and who will still be there later on when you come to draw your money down, exactly, or you want to reapply. Exactly. So it's the same guy all the time.
So comparing that to, you know, the bank, I'm sure you've called your bank a few times, and people listening, you call a call center and there's no continuity of the previous dialogue that you've had. With this, that's really important to us, that someone understands the business.
I mean, we've all been there, but it was beautifully highlighted in that video of the gentleman who went to the bank and said, put me through, and 13 minutes later, they said, having listened to the music for 13 minutes, they said, we can't get through ourselves. But yeah, that's another issue altogether. As an accountant, and again, there's lots of accountants listening, as an accountant, can I do this process on behalf of my client? If my client gives me permission and says, look, Tone, I'm happy for you to deal with this, go to these guys. Can I do all the tech for them and do the application process as an accountant? Absolutely.
So we're partnering with, I guess you can call it partnering with accountants, but I guess it's more of an educational thing for us. We're trying to make more accountants aware of who we are and what we do, because they're all having conversations with their clients about where to raise finance from. And I guess by just being aware of us, it's another string to their bow in the service that they provide. But to answer your question, certainly, we have an introducer portal for accountants, so that they'll sign themselves up as an introducer. It's free to do as well. You'll have a platform there where you can actually submit clients' applications on their behalf. And what's really great, well, the feedback that we've got is great, is that we would only communicate with the accountant up until the point that we can approve their client. So when they can upload certain documents.
So basically, I can register as an introducer, even though I haven't introduced anything yet. But I can register as an introducer. That gives me access to this accountant portal. I can do all of this on behalf of my client, and only at the point that you're going to want the client to say yes, as it were. Everything goes through me.
Everything goes for you, and like I said, if we can put a decision in place, we'll go to the accountant, we'll go, congratulations, we can offer this amount at this rate.
And then we can go back to the client.
Are you happy for us to proceed? And you'll relay that to the client, and only with your permission will we then go for the final steps with the client.
So that's a special scheme purely for accountants, and accountants, and as your head of accountants relationships, you're the man, I suppose. So to get in touch with you direct
absolutely.
After this event. So after this webinar's over and you're thinking you're interested, you've got Richard's email address, email Richard and he'll tell you how to do that introducing thing. And to me, as an accounting practice, all day long, it will add value to your practice. I mean, the speed that this thing happens really, really is astonishing. For those of us who have gone through the rigmarole of trying to get funds out of the banks and finding, you know, that quite often we are rejected for no apparent reason, or the damage is done because it's took too long and we haven't had the time to we've lost that tremendous deal. Certainly get onto that. As I say, you can look for ICPA members who are listening in on this. Obviously, if you go to our website, you can see that we have an even more special benefit for our membership, whereby some of your people, your clients, can actually get a month completely free. So again, have a look at our website, or again, talk to Richard or me about what that means for ICPA members. And as I say, if you're not an ICPA member, this is still open to you. It's got nothing to do with, you know, just the ICPA. The ICPA, as you know, we're here for small practice accountants, and I think this is a really important issue for us, which is why we've brought Richard here to talk to you today. One of the things you mentioned there was Zero. I know you said you got an award. So what award did you walk off with at Zero? Zero Khan, people. What award did you walk off with?
Yes, we're really proud and humble. Bear in mind we're a new partnership and integration with Zero. We won Emerging App Partner of the Year.
Emerging App Partner. Did you get a big certificate?
We got a certificate, a nice little trophy. So,
did you take that back to the boss, and what did they say?
Yeah, everyone's really delighted.
They said we expected them as a minimum.
I mean, ZeroCon was great for us. I mean, all we're trying to do is as I said, spread a bit of awareness of who we are and what we do. And with Xerocon, you know, in front of thousands of accountants, it was really nice and satisfactory for us to see that there is an actual demand. People are really interested to learn about, not just alternative finance, but other services that can help them with the service that they provide and the value-added services that they can provide for their clients. What's really interesting, the feedback that we're getting for us is that there's 4, I guess, main reasons why it's really beneficial for them. One, it's eliminating all the paperwork an accountant would traditionally have had to done with collating together management accounts, cash flow forecasts, which you mentioned earlier. There's no commitment involved, so just a sense check whether your client can be approved or not. It's a completely free process and something you can walk away from. Saving time, so our technology allows us to put decisions in place really quickly. And obviously they're taking control of it, so you can actually manage the application on your client's behalf and would only communicate with the accountant. They really appreciate that sort of experience.
Yeah, I think, you know, it always struck me, being in practice for so long, is, you know, we'd be doing this process, we'd be going through part and parcel of the things they'd ask you for. Oh, can we have the last 3 years accounts? And you sit there and you point out to them, you know, every year we have this overdraft facility, I'm looking for a lot. I said, and as part and parcel of that, every year we send you these accounts every year. And here I am applying for them and asking for them again. You know, you've already got them. And it always struck me saying, well, you're looking at all these, you've seen what's really happening in the last, you know, forget 2 years, I've been with you maybe banking for 20 years, you can think 20 years worth of history. Why are you asking me for this? Always very surprised, and that's why this is like a real, you know, breath of fresh air to look at. I think all that remains, a couple of things I did want to mention, that it is very small. You can go very small. Your smallest is sort of, what's it, 5,000 you lend?
And it's actually from 1,000 to 100,000.
So it can go very small. And, you know, the small business sector actually does deserve something like this, doesn't it? Because when you think about it, you know, that something in the order of 1 in 3 jobs are in the small business sector. You think, why are we struggling to get the finance that we actually need? Anyway, time's running out. All it remains for me to say is thanks all of you for attending the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. It will be available on our YouTube channel, so we will email you a link if you've had to go away and what have you. Say thanks to Richard for coming along today. And just a quick heads up, next month I'll be interviewing Ben Chaplin, who's MD of Kroner TaxWise, in my next Tony Talks webinar, which is on the 14th of November, I think. So keep an eye open for that. So to find out what's going on in the world of tax investigations, inquiries. So what's going on in the world of tax? No, they're investigations, you know they are. Make sure you register for that one. So again, from myself at ICPA, thank you and goodbye.